You guys will not believe how easy it is to sub direct to BGS from the UK. Not only can it be faster and cheaper than using a middleman, but you avoid a lot of middleman only issues that perhaps you may have already encountered. So let's get into the video and I will show you how easy this is to do, because I've done this myself recently, and yeah, it's really simple, really easy to do. So head on over to beckett.com. Now, there are two different ways you can submit and sort of do your submission form. There is an online submission form or a sort of manual PDF submission form that you'd have to print off and then fill in. In my opinion, the online one is way easier because it just creates the form for you. So if you go to beckett.com, literally click submit on the top right, and then as you can see here, you then just pick the type of submission you want to do. So in our case, we want to do cards, and you're then presented with all the service levels for cards. So I've done a collector's special recently, which took 65 business days. I guess that's why they've added this little plus here just to cover that. But on the collector's special, which is the cheapest, as you can see, there is a 10 card minimum and a maximum declared value of $400 per card. You can pick subgrades, so you can have these 4 subgrades on the card or just 1 grade. So if we just pretend we're going to make an order here and go with a collector's special with subgrades at $18 per card, hit select, and then we literally get to the screen to start adding our cards. It gives you an example here, and just be very sort of mindful of the order that things are sort of placed in. So we've got year, the TCG, the card name. So for example, if we want to submit base set unlimited Charizard, so if we go 1999 Pokemon and then just put Charizard, and as you can see, there's lots of other cards returning. We're getting Topps cards as well. So if we just scroll through this list, and as you can see, we're starting to get some base set first edition Charizards in Dutch, in German. So if we could keep looking down the list, and there we go, we've got a 1999 base set unlimited Charizard holo. So if we click on that, and as you can see, the right hand side is already starting to calculate how much this is going to cost us. At the moment, we've got 1 card. We may want to send 5 copies of this card, and as you can see, it's already reflecting the value. So something to note about declared value. Obviously, this is collector special. The maximum declared value was $400 per card. So I physically can't put anything over 400. If I try and put a 1 on the end, it won't let me. So 400 is the maximum. Let's just make this simple and say it's $100 declared value. So we've got 5 of them. That would be a return worth $500 in value. Now, the declared value is what they are insuring it based on. So if you get black labeled and things like that, technically they are worth more, but what you're declaring that value as, that is how much they will insure your return parcel for. So as you can see, as we enter in declared value, this starts to change. So we've now got 5 cards at $18, and they've added $16 for insurance to cover the $500 total insurance in terms of the value we've added. So if we change that, you'll see the insurance value changes. So let's just make that the maximum, which is 400. And as you can see, the insurance has now doubled. It's gone up to $32. So, you know, very simple, but just be aware that that is the declared value is your return insurance value. So just be mindful of that. So yeah, if we just click continue, and that didn't work because this is a collector's special service, which has a minimum requirement of 10 cards. So let's make this really simple. We want to submit 10 for unlimited Charizards at $100 declared value each. So £1,000 in total sort of value for the package. And we've got our 10 minimum cards to submit, and the insurance has gone back down to 16 as we've dropped the value. So we've got, yeah, the total here, which includes the insurance. If we then click continue, it's obviously going to ask us to fill in our address details. Now, if I can select United Kingdom, hopefully it starts to add it on. Don't think it has it? So let me just fill this. So I don't actually need to fill this in. If you just pick the return shipping as international, if you just set your country to UK, obviously you will have to fill in your return shipping address details, but I'm sure you know how to fill in an address form. So pick international here, and as you can see, there's already a cost for an international return shipping. It's $57. Now, I'm not sure how much that changes. If you're sending 100, 200 cards, perhaps it goes up slightly because the parcel will be bigger. I'm not 100% sure on that. All I've done at the moment is a 10 card submission. However, small parcels can normally be quite large, so I'd imagine you could still submit a lot of cards and it still only ends up being $57 for that return shipping. So as you can see on the right, that is now reflected. You get the full breakdown, your cost for the cards being graded, your insurance, and your return shipping. Now, I think the insurance price has actually changed because we've picked international instead of whatever it would have been set to when you're not set to the UK. So the insurance has actually gotten cheaper, and I assume that is because the international return shipping they use is probably nearly covers $1,000 in cost anyway. Perhaps it covers $500 for free, in which case if you were doing a smaller sub with only $500 worth of cards, then perhaps insurance would be free. So you can't opt out of insurance. It's obviously to cover them if the package gets lost on its way back to you. So as you can see here, 10 cards, we're looking at $250. Now, obviously this now works out at about $25 per card, and we haven't taken into account the fact that we need to send this internationally. So doing a small submission such as 10 cards, it likely will be more expensive than using a middleman. But if you're doing a larger submission, 20, 30, 40 cards, it will work out cheaper. But as I said at the start, typically this is quicker because you're not waiting for it to go to a middleman for a certain deadline. You can literally send this whenever you want. You don't have to wait for them to process it and then send it on. And then when it comes back, you're then waiting on them to process the orders and send them back to you again. So I've noticed that my recent submission was about a month quicker doing it direct. I did pay a bit more because I did only send 10 cards because I wanted just to test out this process and see how it was before I sent sort of more cards and higher value cards. So as you can see, just 10 cards, you're looking at $25 per card at the moment. Once you hit continue, you will then receive a confirmation email from BGS. Now, that email will contain the order form that's already populated with your address, with all the cards, with the service level. So all you need to do is print the form that they email you, and you then just put that in the parcel that you send to them. Now, if you're not familiar with grading and how to package cards for grading, they've got a page for that. So if you go to this page here, it will explain exactly how to package your cards. As always, you put them in a penny sleeve. The sleeve goes into a semi-rigid card holder. They recommend how to safely package this with bubble wrap and cardboard and rubber bands to keep everything together. And as it says, you include the submission form, use parcel tape. They go through all of this information and then the address to send it to. Now, I've noticed that you can typically get shipping to BGS for around sort of £35. So what I do is I use parcel2go.com. So if you head on over here and click send internationally, let's just go with kind of like a standard parcel and see what sort of prices we get. Now, the good thing about doing it direct yourself is you have full control over insurance and things like that. So if you want to make the sub a little bit cheaper, then if you're happy to risk no insurance on the way out, then that will save you some money. If you want full insurance, which, to be honest, if you're sending very, very expensive cards, I believe middleman services only cover up to a certain amount in value anyway that you might not even be aware of. So if you wanted to fully insure it, you can also do that. Like, it's completely in your control. So if we just filter this by fastest, and let's just say we want collection. So UPS there is at £43. I think this is a little bit more than I paid, perhaps because I've put in a slightly larger parcel size at 30 centimeters all around. But yeah, in general, I've used FedEx on here and they were about £35–38. So it's probably just the parcel dimensions I've entered. Now, if you do use them, I have found that FedEx, UPS, or whoever it is that you use, if you ask them to cover the maximum value on here, it is very expensive. So I think they charge about 5% of the total value. So if you're sending cards worth £1,000, then that 5% will be £50 extra for the insurance. Now, obviously, if you start sending more cards and a lot more expensive cards, that very quickly adds up. So I have found a better way to do this personally. There is this site here, which I've used before. I've never had to make a claim with them, so it's hard to be able to like really recommend them because I've not had to do that. I don't know what the process is like, and I don't know how well they would pay out in that situation. I did read their reviews, and they do have very strict terms and conditions, and if you don't adhere to those terms and conditions, they won't pay out. And obviously this only applies to people in the UK, but they will only charge 1% of the value. So let's just say we've got a £1,000 value parcel. They only charge you £10. So insure a parcel. All you do is you just sign up and you literally just give them the tracking ID. So if you want insurance, I recommend this way because it's so much cheaper than insuring with FedEx directly. And obviously this is only for the way out. With their strict terms and conditions, you must make sure to not have anything on the parcel that indicates what could be inside it. Now, when you use Parcel to Go and you have to fill out your information like the contents here, trading cards, it will create a customs form for you, and you do have to attach that to your parcel. Now, whatever you do, it's normally recommended that you put that in an envelope, or sometimes you can get clear plastic bags that go on the parcel and you put the customs form inside. If you do that, make sure that you don't have the part of the customs form that says trading cards and its value facing outwards. So I recommend, if you're going to use them, just going on their website and reading that information and maybe doing what I did, look at the reviews and what people complained about. Quite typically, it's people complaining that they didn't get paid for the insurance, and that is because they didn't keep by those terms and conditions. They had things on the parcel indicating what was inside it, and unfortunately that's just their terms and conditions. So if you are going to use them, just look into it a bit as well, just to make sure you're following and it's fully insured. So I take pictures of the parcel as I'm packaging it up, and then when it's packaged, you take a picture so you've got proof. So there is nothing indicating what is actually inside that parcel, and hopefully you'll be covered with these guys. And that is obviously only if you want insurance anyway. So the next step is your parcel will be sent. So most of these Parcel to Go services will take a couple of days. Obviously, you can pay a bit more for a 1 to 3 day delivery, or pay a bit less, and it can take up to 5 days to get there. The next step is obviously it is at Beckett. They will email you. I think it took them about a week to email me to say that they've got my cards, they've got the order. Definitely don't forget your order slip in the parcel, because if that is not in there, they've got no way of knowing whose cards these are. You get a barcode on your order form, so I assume they just scan that as soon as it arrives and they've opened your box and your cards. So obviously, depending on the service you've used, you will just have to wait. Once they've confirmed they've got your cards and order, that's when their estimates start counting down. So if you've got a 60-day collectors, you will have to wait 60 working days. And obviously, if there's any issues, you can reach out and email them and ask them any questions, because it is a direct sub. You are a customer for their service. So at the end of that, you will then get an email that your cards are graded and they are being returned. So my cards actually sat ungraded for about 60 of those working days. And then the last 5 working days, they literally went through all of the grading stages and then were returned to me. So you'll get an email with your tracking number. And what typically happens is it will get held in customs. So sorry about this, I completely forgot. When you go on Parcel to Go, it will ask you at some point for your reason of export. And what you have to select from that drop down, and maybe it's in the next step. Yeah, I need to fill this in. It will ask you for reason of export. You pick temporary export, and that means you're temporarily exporting this item and it will be coming back. So once you get that return tracking and your package is shipped back from Beckett, it will likely end up in customs. Now, they use FedEx, so there is an email address here, so just maybe take note of this. I'll put it in the description. If you email them and give them your original parcel to go tracking number and explain that these are cards that you send off to get graded and encapsulated, it was a temporary export, here's the original tracking number for the package that I sent, here's the one that you're receiving and the one that's in question. If you have any issues, please let me know. If you need any more information, things like that. You can obviously reach out to them beforehand, or you can wait till it gets to customs. It will likely get held up there, and they will reach out and email you asking for that information anyway, and they will give you like a little template of what information they expect back from you. As soon as I had emailed them that information, it was then cleared within the same day and carried on making its way back to me, and it turned up the next day. So it is literally as easy as that. There is not much to it, as you can tell. If you've shipped internationally before, if you've used Parcel to Go before, you will just find this extremely easy because you're used to filling out this information anyway and the customs form. The only thing that's different is you have to go on Beckett's website and just fill in an order form and all your cards. So as you can tell, very, very easy. So other than the obvious reasons of being faster and cheaper at times for subbing direct, I think there's a lot of other reasons that are worth going over that you would only have issues with if you use a middleman. And I think there's still a place for using middleman services. I think that's always going to be there. But if you're someone who's into cards, regularly grades cards and things like that, going direct, even if it ends up more expensive and you're doing a smaller sub, personally, I think I'm going to prefer doing that myself, having full control. Because if you use a middleman, there are a lot of things that perhaps you may not have thought about that can go wrong. So obviously, they have the prices they do because they bundle everyone's cards and orders together. That makes it cheaper. That makes it very affordable for you to use a middleman. But there is a downside to that, is any problems with other cards in the submission can affect your cards in the submission. If that then holds up the whole order, then that's someone else's cards that aren't even yours, affecting how long yours will take to return. Not only that, but there's countless issues like poor management, exit scams, you've got companies going under into liquidation like Ludkins, you've got orders being stuck because submitters aren't paying, like in the case of Graded Gem. And I know these middleman services are for PSA, but BGS middleman services could easily end up having the same issues. It's just that they may not have encountered that just yet. You've also got communication. You can literally just directly reach out to Beckett. You can just email them and ask them anything you want. If you use a middleman, you have to contact the middleman, they contact Beckett, and it's the same on the way back. So it's a very slow, long-winded process. You can't just directly reach out to Beckett and ask them a question. You've also got submission deadlines using a middleman. So obviously going direct, as soon as you've got your order ready, you can send it. There's no waiting until the end of the month or anything like that. As I said, you've got full control over insurance. If you want to fully cover your cards, you can do that. If you want to take the risk and not cover it and make it cheaper for your submission, then you can also just do that. It's not in anyone else's hands. You've got full control over those costs. Middleman services are normally run by a few people. If they take holidays, which of course they will because they are just normal people, they need holidays. But if they do take them, that's 2 weeks where nothing gets processed. If you're subbing direct, you don't have to worry about a thing because that is a large company, and if people are off, that is covered. That is not lost time whatsoever. You've also got less risk with postage, in my opinion. If you're using a middleman, you are posting from you to them within the UK. You're then going to America. So it then comes back twice. You've got 4 postal trips with 2 different postal companies. If you're going direct, it's there and back. In my opinion, the less trips, the less postal services hands that item is in, the less risk there is. So with all of those potential issues, and I'm sure there's more that I haven't even thought about, but that is plenty to go over for this video, they disappear instantly if you sub directly. Something else to add is when you use a middleman, a lot of people forget to factor this into the price. They just say, oh, you know, they're quoting £20 per card. But you're not considering the fact that you normally will pay postage to them and back from them within the UK. Typically, that's about £12 because it will be special delivery. It will be fully insured. So £12 there, £12 back. That's already £24 extra. So if you're sending 10 cards, immediately you should be adding nearly £2.50 per card into the grading cost. And a lot of people forget to do that. I know I've done it at times. So if you think about that, that £24 could already be used for your postage out to BGS, which is about £35 to £38. So you're already covering a lot of that postage out there. So take that into account and just bear that in mind. Now, with all that said, I think I've already convinced myself that even if I do a small submission and it ends up a little bit more, personally, I'd rather go direct. Now, I do think there is a place for middleman services. There are people out there that don't know cards much. They don't grade cards. They may just find some old cards from a family member or something like that, and they just want these cards graded and they want them to be sold, and they have no experience or knowledge in that field. And that is what a middleman is perfect for. If you're also sending a small amount of cards, if you've just got too expensive cards that you want to send, it could make sense to use a middleman because of that international postage and that international return postage and insurance. Unless you're sending a lot of cards, you will only be spreading that cost over 2 cards, and it can make it a lot more expensive. So there's always a place for middleman services. But with that said, I know a lot of you out there who have asked me for this video and wanted this information. I know you're going to find it very useful and very beneficial just to sub-direct yourself like I have done, and a few others I know are already doing. So I hope that information helps. If you have any questions, just drop them below in the comments and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you found that video useful, please hit like. It will help this get recommended to other people that are potentially searching for the same thing. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing to my channel and checking out some of my other videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.